Window seat.
You on
Yeah.
the traffic that's on Ring 1 every morning. And I
Aha.
really highly recommend people to use public transport. It makes you much happier when you get to work, less stress. Read a book, listen to an audiobook, watch a podcast with Andrew, and you'll have a lot more better start into the day than standing in traffic Monday morning. Yeah, I'm a big advocate of public transportation.
Hello and welcome to Talent Sorcery. I'm your host, Andrew, and today's guest is Maximilian LeRoux. Max, welcome and thank you for joining.
My pleasure, Andrew. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, my friend. Can you please introduce yourself to our viewers, listeners?
Yeah, it's a funny thing when people ask me, for example, where you're from. I always laugh. That's the wrong question to ask. So I am this half German, half Finnish person who lived around the world with a French last name and a family that's been from all over the place. So I grew up in Germany and spent my childhood summers in Finland. And after my studies of economics, where I've been everywhere from the Trans-Siberian Railroad up to sleeping in a hammock on the Amazon, I decided that my hometown was getting too small on me and I wanted to go somewhere else, but I didn't want to be a hippie on the beach in Rio selling sunglasses, even though that sounds like a fun idea. I decided I have some studies, I want to work, I want to be somewhere where I feel like it's new and yet familiar, so I decided to come to Finland, and that was in 2004, that's already 21 years ago. Started my first job in Finland with Ilkka Paananen in his previous endeavor, Digital Chocolate. Met the Rovio founders and all that time in Finland was pretty exciting. Then went with Digital Chocolate to South America, and then my trip took me to New York and then back to Finland and back to the US, and I was there for a total of 8 years then in the US and came back to Finland in 2017 as a first-time entrepreneur. Back then I had founded a company with a former colleague of mine from Finland, and we had some good traction, and that was for me a good moment also to move back to Europe and to my beloved Finland. So I've been here now since 2017 and it's been just a ride.
What a ride, what a ride. So you were actually selling digital chocolate in South America, not sunglasses after all.
Exactly. The good thing is it doesn't make you fat, but you have a neck like this when you're too long on your phone playing games.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, very many highlights that I would love to discuss with you. Obviously, as an international in Finland, it is always a story, always a journey. I am an international in Finland myself. I came to Finland a little bit later than you, 2008, but I remember the time that it was a pretty different place in a way. On one hand, the economy was going through a different cycle, and then all these kind of famous companies of today were being born, like Digital Chocolates, and Nokia was in its bloom. So I think you definitely managed to catch this really nice wave of tech development in the world in Finland. How did you feel about maybe getting your first steps in Finland as an international? Obviously you are kind of connected to the country, not like somebody who moves completely from abroad who doesn't know a word of Finnish. You have some connection with Finland, right?
Yeah, I'm half Finnish and I spent all my childhood summers in Eastern Finland, and I thought that makes me like also another Finn, but when I came here I realized that wasn't the case. Just starting with my name and my I would say I speak fluently wrong in Finnish, my accent, I'm still like a strange bird. Definitely people are interested. Who is this guy? Because I have always a story, and I would say nomen est omen. Your name is opening doors sometimes. But it was a little bit of a surprise for me that I thought it was going to be much easier. I didn't see myself as a foreigner. I still don't see myself as a foreigner wherever I go. I'm just a traveler, and I'm at home anywhere. And so it was a shock for me first to like realize like, okay, the world doesn't see you like you see yourself. You have all this talent of I speak several languages. I have a college degree. I see me speaking Finnish, and I come to Finland, and I'm like, oh wow, it doesn't count because the job I wanted, they're just like, yeah, English is enough, or we want Swedish or something. I was like, really? You leave me this talent like laying on the table and you take something on the safe side instead? So it does hurt your ego a little bit. It also takes away some of your energy, and it was not so easy to start. I think it was still easier than for most people who are like arriving now. There was a lot less foreigners here, so I had less to compete with. I could pick my own niche, and I went with, at some point, saying, okay, I left Germany because I wanted something new, but I realized Germany is a big market for Finland, so I started just to look for things where people need a native German speaker. Because I said, I'm going to beat any local competition. And I started to realize I have to like go to what works, and that means sometimes also making a compromise. It's like the bait has to taste of the fish, not to the fisherman. So
that's right.
Yeah, so I needed a foot in the door. So let me just go and do something that I'm good at. And so I landed a job in sales, and it was one of the reasons I came to Finland as well, because Finland is far away from everything. The world is not coming to Finland. Finland has to go to the world. And if we have products and services that we want to bring elsewhere, we need to have the people who can do that. And for me, that was an opportunity as a young professional to be a lot on the plane and see the world, and I got a really good start.
That's awesome. I really like how you described it, that bait has to taste good to the fish, not to the fisherman. Definitely something to remember about always.
Always works, yeah, it's true. Always good to remember. We love the things we do, and we're so excited about them, and the world, we see the world as it occurs to us, and not sometimes from the perspective of others, how they see us, and that makes it hard, especially in a job hunt, I think, because it's very personal. So we tend to take things personal, and that makes it even more difficult to see that maybe you're not needed for this or that right now, and it bothers you. And I had a very crucial moment in my life that actually kept me going through every crisis ever since. I mean, I've been promoted and laid off and prevented bankruptcies and all kinds of things. So it's not like it was always a fun ride. It was in that year 2004 when Christopher Reeve died. He was the actor of Superman who had fallen off a horse and was injured that he could not move like anything anymore. And after years, he was able to move a finger or something. And he died, and they replayed an interview on the BBC from just before his death. And they asked him about how in today's science, you have absolutely no chance of ever being walking again, and you still keep going, and you're going to the swimming pool every morning at 8 o'clock to go swimming. Well, how do you do that? And then he said, well, 90% is just getting there. You have to ignore your moods. And that stuck in my head. It's like, if Superman can do this, I can do this. And every time I have a hard time in my life, I think about Superman. It's like, he's going to the pool at 8 o'clock. You can do this. This can't be as hard. And it's a good motivational thing when you have to lift yourself up again sometimes and just keep going.
I feel inspired, Max. Thank you for sharing this. I agree 100%. Like 90% is just showing up consistently.
Exactly.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Look, I wanted to know more about your current adventure. You have started a company last year. That's what I know. I also know that you have been actively representing the company. I saw this amazing video of you pitching your company from the hole in the ice and winning the main prize of the competition. So big congrats on that. I would love to hear more.
Yeah, that's a fantastic story, and it's like something that's very typical for me. Like, oh God, what did I sign up myself again for? It started out that I wanted to be I wanted to co-found a startup again, and I'm not an inventor. I can bring things to the world, to the market. I have very customer-centric mindset, and I'm not afraid to pick up the phone and ask people for help or try to like make contacts. So I was sitting around with a friend a couple of years ago and thinking about what could be Max's next thing. And as we talk, he said, you know what, why do you have to invent something yourself? Just go to the source where the smart people are, and you'll match. Find the people who invented some product or service, and they realize that your skill of scaling things globally matches with what they have. And so I started to mingle with the people and professors at University of Helsinki and Aalto University to find out if there are any like spin-out startups, because they always look for someone to take over the chief commercial officer role, a CEO role. And I thought it was a perfect spot for me to come in when it's not already 20 engineers and then they say we need a part-time salesperson. So because it's already, all you got to do is sell it now. It's a big problem here in Finland that a lot of times we invent something that nobody needs. It works great, but there's no demand. So that's how I ended up with this whole university gig that I said, let me just go in early enough so we can build a company commercially minded from day one. And well, so I ended up in this deep tech company. There's 3 of us, 2 physicists and myself, and we are kind of like an arranged marriage because we have not met before, and we started to get to know each other. But the chemistry was right, or the physics, or whatever you want to call it.
The physics was right. Okay.
And there's a big age difference between us, but there's the same kind of mindset. We want to make big things. It's like this typical entrepreneur vision. You want to change the world, at least in parts. Mm-hmm. And so I'm in deep tech, and deep tech is really exciting because it gets the kid out of you. Like I'm doing all this on physics and chemistry and electricity, and I have to learn so many things so fast again, mm-hmm. Which is exciting. And we're doing a electrospinning, it's called. Like, you know, when you used to use woven materials, you call it spinning. Now we're electrospinning. We're making technology to produce nanofibers. And so nanofibers are 1,000 times thinner, or somewhere between 100 and 1,000 times thinner than the human hair. And therefore they're super lightweight and have a lot of surface, which makes them very useful for a lot of applications. Just very simple one is you could filter out microplastics from water, or you can filter out very fine dust and bacteria from air. So mm-hmm. you can breathe fresher air and drink cleaner water. And there's about 20 other applications for it.
Awesome.
So it's really fun to see. The old method is you pump a polymer solution through a needle that is connected to high voltage, and when it gets ejected to the air, it turns solid. It looks like flying cotton candy. It's kind of cool. And then so when you see that, it's kind of fun. You want to touch it, but it's high voltage. You shouldn't.
Intrusive thoughts.
Exactly. Okay, so here we are. So now we replace the needles with a virtual needle. We make an ultrasound, and therefore we can put like a 50 times output at the same precision of current methods. And this is the first time basically that this can be scaled. I call this the wireless phone moment of nanotechnology. So it's pretty exciting. And we've been together since like part-time November and then full-time since December only from last year. So we did have, we had to be super fast also figuring out what we're actually trying to do and how do we make money with this. And there comes the polar bear pitching. So this is my 3rd winter of doing ice swimming. First year I did that, I was like, are you crazy? Why am I doing this? And then going over and over again, like think about Superman. I made it like a little bit of a martial art to just first practice my breathing slowly before I go in, and then trying to jump in the water, trying to swim in the water, and then it was turned into more fun. And then a friend of mine said, hey, you should participate in this polar bear pitching. Mm-hmm. Polar what? And then he told me about it's a startup contest, and as long as you're in the ice hole, you can pitch your startup. I was like, that's fun. I'm going to sign up for that. The whole process of, like applying, having an interview, and then getting there. And then we said, let's use this as an excuse for having a deadline. Within 3 months, we have to have a concise pitch. What is Acouspin doing? It gave us a deadline. We have received a high definition video of the pitch, which we wanted to use it for fundraising. Mm-hmm. And it was a team building trip. As I said, we just get to know each other, so we could only win. Of course, we also wanted to win the whole competition.
It's a win-win-win.
Yeah, but even if we didn't, it would have been fun. Like everyone who was participating in the final had so much fun, and we're still friends with each other. That came from all over the world, and so that's like kind of what was good. It's good to set yourself some clear deadlines. Until when do you want to get what done, and then just live with it. And in the startup, especially, it's all about making quick decisions and move on. Decide, move on. Because you don't have money, you don't have resources, you have the ability to be fast. And if you kill that one advantage of a startup, then you're set up for failure.
Absolutely. I have 2 questions to ask. First question is more of a philosophical and rhetorical nature. We talk a lot about sisu in Finland, the perseverance, and we talk about failing fast and learning fast. And then, it is a bit tricky, in my mind at least, to combine these two in the world of startups, because you want to move fast and break things and fail fast and learn. But at the same time, sometimes people say, hey, we need to persevere, we need to keep pushing forward. How do you find that balance? What's your take on that?
Think about it like a parkour or something. You're running, you see an obstacle, you jump over, you got to just go to the side and just keep going. And I think, the failing fast means like you have to see yourself from a perspective as well. Not just be stubborn on my idea is so great, but see yourself on. People don't invest in a product; they invest in a business. And if you see things are not working, you should be honest to yourself, and from the early start on get people, sparring partners that are not, in love with your idea. They just want to help you. And it's another thing. Don't fall in love with the baby. It's a business idea. You should be super excited about it, but you need to be able to, put it in perspective. Do something, and when you realize it doesn't work, try something else. It doesn't mean throw everything overboard. But I think the sisu is important. Just keep going, but doesn't mean like bang your head through the wall. If the door is closed, you find a window to go through.
Yes, absolutely agree. Words of wisdom. My second question is, I saw that you spent about 5 minutes in the icy water. Did you cover yourself with nanoparticles? Okay.
I think the adrenaline of the event helps. I actually also think the speaking helps, because speaking is breathing. Mm-hmm. And if you want to practice to talk slowly, because you explain deep technology, you have to speak slowly, and the cold water slows you down to begin with. I think that's big help. I have practiced to be in the water between 3 and 5 minutes many times, so that wasn't new. I think it was relatively warm that day. The water was cold, of course, but it sounds like funny, it was warm. But the air was pretty warm. If you have minus 15 degrees, then your shoulders or your neck start to freeze, and then it's harder than it was actually that day. I think it was a good advantage. But I think the most was the excitement. There were people in the ice hole for many minutes that it was their second time or so. The one time was the day before when we practiced. So, and they lasted quite long. I think the event adrenaline does a lot with that.
Clear. Fantastic. I have not had the chance to go see it or participate yet, maybe one day, but I need to start practicing today, I guess, to be able to last a little bit longer there. Okay, well, we have a few more topics to cover today.
Sure.
I am very curious to learn more about your take on the modern economy. We live in unprecedented times, everybody agrees. And you are a professional economist, and you are also going into politics, I know. So I'm very curious to hear maybe just your take on what's happening in Finland, what's happening in the world. We know that there is some sort of stuff happening with tariffs that is affecting stock markets. The U.S. Kind of political system is also kind of in turmoil, one may say. It's affecting many different things in the world. What are the practical implications for me and you as citizens of this country?
Well, that was a long question between tariffs and what's going on in
I
Finland.
know, a lot of stuff.
So I think, well, tariffs are usually a bad thing for everyone. There's only losers in this, because a tariff is a tax and it makes products more expensive. People who try to pretend to say, like, you're paying this as a code check and then you go and sell your things inside, that doesn't work that way. And usually it leads to all products becoming more expensive. As an example, if you would put a tax on washing machines, it will also make the dryers more expensive, because the companies notice that consumers are used to having higher prices on washing machines, and they usually buy dryers at the same time. So they just raise those prices as well. And the idea of getting more manufacturing to your own country through that is also not really true. You may create a few jobs, but these jobs come at such a high cost that you might as well just pay cash to the people and let them be free rather than destroying the rest of the economy. So I think nobody's going to win with that. Mm-hmm. I think this very turbulent new presidency brings also a lot of countries together, honestly, to focus on themselves. And maybe that's something we need to do in general anyways. Focus on what you're good at. You can't influence the other things. You can't change the entire world. You can change yourself. So start with what you do in your daily life and start impacting where you are. My reason to go into politics, again, actually, I was in politics before. I was elected to the city council in Frankfurt twice, and I ran for the German parliament back in those days.
Cool.
Then I received a scholarship to go to Argentina to study, and I was 24 years old. I was like, I can always be a politician. I cannot always be a student, and someone finances me a year in Argentina.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it was a good choice. And then I never somehow got back to politics. If I'm a very political person, I first wanted to do career, I wanted to do this and that, and just it didn't come about. But still a news addict every night, every day, reading what's going on. And it bothered me in the last few elections that more and more people vote on the extremes, on the left and right, and the middle of the society is busy with first world problems. So I wanted to show an example to my friends and my family that it's not an excuse to say I don't have time. I'm a very busy man. I'm on a minute calendar, and I make this time because it's too fragile of a flower to just leave it to the loudest to take care of our democracy. And that's why I'm in it. If I'm getting elected, great. If I don't, I'll show everyone it's worth a try. And it's good for democracy to have more candidates than you have seats. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. Then you're somewhere in China where only there's enough candidates as you have seats available.
Definitely.
And now getting to what can we do?